Okay, great. Like I said, first off, we'll go over, if anybody has any questions or comments about last week, this is the time we go ahead and we can take care of those before we move on.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
When Sparrow was saying was your gallbladder,
Yeah.
that you said that you went out of it.
Yeah.
Last year, I had a big scare with my white count cells.
Uh-huh.
And they sent me to the Kootenai Cancer Center. Well, the doctor did a blood test, and then for some reason, he wanted to do a bone marrow biopsy.
Right.
Okay, well, I have fibromyalgia and that, and so he tried 3 times to get bone marrow out of me, and he couldn't. I remember leaving, signing myself out, and I was okay.
Right.
I don't remember leaving the hospital, driving to the federal building. I drive clutch.
Right.
Next thing I knew, I woke up in an ambulance. They said I was coherent during what they asked me and everything, but I don't remember. But I was wondering, I thought about it that night, last week. Could I have just went out because the pain was so bad?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's just like you just turn off the pain. You just isolate from the area of pain so that it just does not register. When I was wounded at Nam, I did the same thing. I had my right calf was peppered with shrapnel from an RPG, and right after I got hit, I didn't know I had been hit, but my right leg had jerked up. And if it hadn't been for my leg being the way, the shrapnel would have shattered 2 bottles of scotch, and that would have been a crying shame. But when I went to get out of the truck, the RPG blew the fuel tank out, cut across the top of the tank, blew the fuel pump out. So we didn't go maybe about another 100 yards or so before the truck died because there was no fuel. But I was the only one that got hit, and I didn't realize it. And then when I went to get out, I noticed that my right calf, the whole bottom, from the knee down on my right leg was all bloodied. So I took off my belt and made a quick tourniquet. I had 6 other guys in the truck with me. None of them got wounded. They just lucked out. And we got out of the truck, and I got 3 on each side of the road in the ditches because we were facing NVA, and I thought we might get rushed because we were fired at from both sides of the road, from about 50 yards away on each side from dense underbrush. And they had us easily outnumbered. I mean, there were 6 of us, 7 of us, and we were probably outnumbered by about 4 to 1. But they never rushed us. There was not a single bullet hole in the truck anywhere, other than what the damage from the RPG. And we had a canvas top over it, and there wasn't a bullet hole in that canvas top at all. And so when we hopped out, I got everybody in the road, and I was standing up in the middle of the road, out in the open with my Thompson submachine gun, and I was saying, come on, guys, come and get me, I'm right here. And my people were saying, you're crazy. And I said, no. But I wasn't feeling any pain because I just turned that pain off. And about 30, 45 minutes, and another convoy came by, and we hopped on and caught a ride with them because the truck was shot. And got medevaced in. I got medevaced to Da Nang, and I just hobbled through the hospital, bleeding, leaving a trail of blood behind me, so to speak. Got to the surgical unit, and they took me into emergency, and they prepped me for surgery, and they gave me a shot. This is going to put you out, snowball. And so for about 30 or 45 minutes, I sat there while they were waiting for these shots that they were giving me to knock me out and take effect. Finally, the one doctor grabbed about 4 or 5 vials and said, I'm going to give you a shot. You ain't going to fight. And he took a little of each one, and boy, he shot me, and that was the last thing I remember. But when I had the gallbladder problem, the doctors wanted to palpate, for the pain, the pressure area, and they pushed it in, and I was just in agony, absolute agony. felt like my gut was on fire. And I told him, I said, just a minute. And then I turned off the pain. I isolated myself from the pain, and he could have beat on me with a sledgehammer and I wouldn't have felt it. And then he said, can you turn that back, can you feel the pain again? I said, yeah. So give me a second. Turned it back on and I was doubled over in pain. And he had other doctors come in, you know, and nurses, because he wanted them to see that, you know, this being done, because they had never seen that. And I said, well, that's what I do. I teach people. And it works. But it takes a lot of focus and a lot of discipline. But you could literally just turn that pain off.
Guess I must have.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember anything until I was in the
Yeah.
ambulance. They said I was coherent. I was yelling at because I was limping.
Right?
And Federal Building had to call the ambulance and the firefighters, and when they were trying to pick me up, I was yelling at them that it hurt, but I don't remember any of it. And
Yeah.
what was scary is driving that car. I don't
Yeah.
remember. So I know my guardian angel or somebody else was doing it, but I'm there but not there.
Yeah, well, that's like when I received my initiation through the Egyptian temple in Cairo as a ranking of 10-1 Archmagixissimus, which means one who has touched the mind of God. For 3 days, I walked around in Boulder, Colorado, in a state of what they call samadhi, divine bliss, and I was functioning and I was interacting with people, but I wasn't even there. It was just automatic. And then for 3 days, I was like that. And then when I finally came out of that, and then I wrote the summary for the temple of what I experienced, and that's when I was awarded that. But yeah, you can tune that out and just be totally detached and still, to some degree, be so functional that the outside world isn't even aware that you're not even there. It just becomes, you just function automatically.
Because all I remember, I was higher than a kite when I woke up, and I was feeling no pain, like, what am I doing here?
Yeah, and
And
the
the
same.
firefighters told me, and I said, what? They said, oh, you told us what medicines, it was all in your file and everything.
Yeah, you can do the same thing with mind-controlled mental discipline. I don't recommend it.
No.
But, I mean, it's, you know, this was just sort of, you know, I just didn't think anything about just doing it, you know. And I didn't even know if I could do it or not. I just a second, let me see. There it was, then it happened.
It was just scary, you know, thinking, well, what happened? Where did I go?
Yeah, well, see, my reaction was, this is cool.
But you remembered yours, right?
Yeah, except for when I was, the 3 days that I was walking around in Boulder, Colorado, and I have absolutely no recollection.
That's what I was asking about. Yeah, I wasn't sure if you had recollection of that.
No, I had no recollection of it because while the body was out walking around and interacting with people that I knew in Boulder, mentally, psychically, however you want to look at it, I was in the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid,
Yeah.
laying in repose.
Learning.
You mentioned something about bliss, a state of bliss or something. What exactly is that?
Well, a state of divine bliss where you're just, you are, it's like being one with the Creator, and you experience such bliss that everything else around you does not impact on you, just does not register. It's like being one with the divine mind, the supreme mind. Remember I was saying that, you know, we are not gods, but we can be of the mind of God for short periods. And it's the same thing. You become detached from whatever's going on with the physical body, so that whatever's going on, you don't feel, it doesn't register. Because you're in this state where there's elevated consciousness, elevated awareness, and it transcends the physical so much that you just lose the connection to it.
Can you be there and remember it, though?
Well, you can, but like in this, like
a dream?
well, it's like when I was doing this thing for the Egyptian temple. I had to separate and be absolutely separate from the physical reality. Even though I was walking around, and was carrying on conversations, discussions with people I knew every day. There's no recollection of it because I wasn't there.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, because I've been in a place before where stuff wasn't touching me. I felt, I don't take this wrong. I felt very similar to what I picture how Christ felt a lot. I mean,
Right.
it says, he said, we will do the things he's done, so.
Right.
It's not like I think I'm the second coming or anything, but it was like I had such peace and I had such love that I was touching to every person that I came across.
Right, well, that's
And
what,
there was a grace to it, and it stayed with me for quite a while, but it was pretty frustrating and sad when it started to slip away.
you know, well, you know.
We
it's-
can't stay there
And
forever,
it goes
right?
Yeah.
gradually, right? Just
Yeah, I
gradually
felt
fades
it
away.
slipping, and I felt some of my more worldly thoughts and behaviors, coming more to the fore, and I tried to hold on to it with everything I had, but that wasn't gonna happen. I think that it's the empty cup thing. I emptied my cup, and I'm starting over, but I'd love to live there.
Yeah, well, there are periods where you are in essence taking a break from it, because I've done that myself, where you're not, everything is still there, the knowledge is still there, but you're just not connecting, but, I look at it as a respite. Because still it's, because like you were saying, it's such a great place to be, you just want to be there all the time. But you can't do that and interface with the real world itself. Unless you go find a cave and then you do the whole thing with the bear skins and all of that, and just hermit away. The real, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, longer than that, you could do that and get away from it, get away from the world, because it wasn't impinging that much. But now it's such a technological world, I mean, it's just right there with you no matter where you go. I mean, up until, 10 years ago, when you left the house, nobody could get a hold of you by phone until you got to wherever it was you're going, and if they knew the number. Now, the phone is right there with you, so you virtually, unless you turn it off, you're virtually in touch with
I
the
don't
world.
ever turn mine off.
Yeah,
It's my work, it's my home phone, everything.
yeah, see? So you never really have a chance to be separate from all of that.
No.
And you really don't have a chance to be just with yourself.
Which I have been turning it off
Yeah.
here and there, but not at night. And I should.
What was that quote you just said, we're not,
We're not gods, but we may be of the mind of God for short periods. And that's the problem with being in human form. I mean, there are so many things to distract you in the physical world that being in that state is almost impractical unless you're just totally disconnected from the world anyway.
yeah.
But if you have connections with the world, you carry your phone around or whatever, you're really never separate from that world. Unless you do a sabbatical and, when you do the 40 days in the wilderness and all of that, which I've done and I don't recommend it.
I would love that. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Nowadays, it's almost impractical, if not impossible.
Yeah.
So it's, it's a great experience to be of one mind with the Creator for a short period, because you lose your identity. Because as soon as you recognize your identity, then you've already broken that connection.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, as soon as you see yourself separated.
Right, right. Once you start getting individual experience back, individual awareness, then you've broken that connection with the divine self. Because that's all encompassing. So any more questions about that? Okay, well then let's go ahead and get started. Like I say, we'll just do one lesson today because of the abbreviated time and whatnot, and better to cover that well than trying to cram 2 lessons in and do a half a job on all of it. So anyway, the lesson that we're going to be doing is regards meditation. And you all may follow along. You'll notice that as I read, they use the male terminologies, and I try to be generic about that and not do that because I think that's stereotypical and it's not intentional, but I'm just not comfortable with it. So anyway, starting off, we find that a course of lessons in self-unfoldment would be incomplete without adequate consideration of the subject of meditation, the understanding and practice of which makes possible the highest spiritual development. By meditation, we mean that period when one has, in consciousness, entered the great world within. They have closed the outside doors and windows, shutting out distractions of every kind, leaving themselves to the stillness within. Here they may examine carefully and thoughtfully the subject which they have taken with them into silence for meditation. And that's the entering into the silence, and that's turning off communication. Meditation includes and comprehends all that is involved in the silence, as usually taught, and it goes one step further. In meditation, one does not merely sit in the stillness waiting for the inflow of divine wisdom, but they carry this into this period of quiet some subject or problem on which they desire more light and understanding. One does not endeavor to think the matter through with the conscious mind in an forceful way, but quietly considers it, going as far in their thoughts as they are able, in which position they are open to suggestions from the divine within. And that's the thing, is to turn off the internal communications. You turn off reason, you turn off logic. Because if you don't turn off the logic, any impressions that you get from outside of yourself, logic will look at and try to dissect.
Okay.
And there are many things that the logic just does not do well with. So that's why you have to enter a silence where that logic is not involved. You bypass that.
Okay.
Continuing on, thoughts are vibrations, and vibrations of a given character attract and harmonize with vibrations of like kind. In meditation, one is sending out vibrations, and the more profound the thought being considered, the higher will be the rate of vibration. In sending out thoughts of a given vibration, the attitude of mind becomes susceptible to vibrations of the same character and higher, for the mind is automatically reaching out for more ideas of the same kind and attracts these higher thoughts to itself. Therefore, meditation is a scientific practice and can be used by anyone to great advantage. In other words, the energies that you put out are the energies that you attract.
Okay.
I have
Yes, ma'am.
I have a real hard time getting into that silence because there's so many thoughts bombard me. How do you get out of that?
They say, in here they say, you do an hour meditation, all right? Now, personally, an hour is really a stretch for a lot of people. Even initially for me, it was a stretch. Force of habit, you can only focus on not focusing for just a few minutes, and it's just something that you have to work at. I mean, it requires practice and it requires a discipline. All right, and if you're forcing an hour's worth of meditation, you're really not accomplishing much because you're forcing it. It's better to do 5 minutes of good meditation than an hour's worth of lousy meditation.
Yeah.
So each person is an individual. They have, they'll learn what their tolerances are and what they can do, and that's what you start with. You don't try and force something that's just not going to fit you. So it's better to start off with what you're comfortable with, and if you can work up to a longer period, great. If not, it's better to have a good 5 minutes than a lousy 60 minutes. See, of course, if you're not like me, you can do it all the time and you just walk around oblivious. But it was initially hard for me at first too.
No, you had to work on it.
Oh, yeah. And anyone, there are some people who say they can do it naturally, but for most of the people I've ever met, they've had to work at it. But, don't force, do what you're comfortable with, and don't regret that you don't do more. Be content with what you're capable of doing. Because if you start saying, start programming yourself, well, you know, I only did 5 minutes, but I really should be doing 30 minutes, and I really feel bad about it, I'm not doing 30 minutes. You're really defeating your own purpose.
It's good.
Sometimes I meditate very, very well, you know, and then sometimes it's just like a door shuts, and I just can't.
I see, it's
Can't
like,
suggestions of what to do.
right, well, that, you know, it's like Sparrow and I have talked about meditation. I've been involved in esoterics for over 40 years. What I do daily is my meditation. Well, from the moment I get up to whenever I lay down, that's my meditation. And everything that I'm doing is part of that meditation. So if I'm working with people, or if I'm on the computer, all of it's meditation. It's just an ongoing thing.
Do you know, are you familiar with mindfulness?
I'm sorry?
Mindfulness?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Isn't that the same thing?
Yeah, kind of,
It's
yeah.
just being present. I was gonna say, I have trouble meditating sometimes because my mind is just, sometimes it's so spastic that staying in one place is painful. But the mindfulness has helped me, because I'm still, my brain is still able to do something, but if I try to focus on like textures and sounds and feelings of what's happening right in that moment, isn't that a kind of meditation?
Yeah. If you're in a state of directed thought, you know, that's a meditation.
It definitely feels like it.
Yeah.
But I tried to meditate some this week.
Well, don't, all right, let's.
Yeah, I know,
all right.
I used the word.
Yeah,
I
don't
was
you-
meditating this week.
Endeavoring to meditate. Endeavoring to meditate.
I actually was meditating. I just wasn't in the place where I wanted to be, so that's why I said try. I wasn't doing it as good as I wanted to be doing. I was defeating my own purpose. But I was bringing in the question, like what you were talking about last week. I was bringing in the question with me, and I was sitting with the question and focusing on the question, which takes way more discipline than I thought it was going to. I mean, I didn't realize how slippery my thoughts can be.
Imagine
I
how-
thought, oh, I could do that.
Imagine how good you'll be in 40 years.
Well, here's the thing though, I don't, more than once, because I brought in something big.
Right.
More than once, I got the feeling that I was done for now. Like almost like something else was telling me, you're done for now. You're not going to get anywhere more with this.
Right.
So I wasn't able to stay with it to the answer.
Yeah, well, yeah, don't force,
I didn't-
if you get an internal communication or something says, well, this is where you stop here today. It's best to go ahead and stop and not try to force it, because if you try to force it, if you achieve anything, it may not be accurate.
It might be your conscious thought.
Right, it's
trying to-
something you created
Yeah.
and not something that came in as of
Inspired.
its own, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you get to that point where, you've reached the door that just is not gonna open no matter how you twist the knob, you say, okay. And just back off from it and relax.
All right, yeah, that's what I did, and I wanted to run it by you because I wasn't sure if I was cheating.
No, it's not cheating.
I wasn't sure if I was just
No.
telling myself, well, you can quit because it seems like the right thing to do.
No,
you know?
what you're going through is the same thing that countless others have gone through. I mean, you're not gonna, it's like, you're not gonna climb the mountain one day. It's just not gonna happen realistically. But you do it in stages, and when, like I say, you get to a point where you're just you can't get beyond that one step, all right, it's okay to stop there, all right? And recall what you accomplished up to that point, and use that as a stepping off for the next time that you do your meditation.
So you're saying if I get tapped in and I learn to do it well, I might be able to bring such big questions and get them resolved in a session?
Well,
if
all right.
I get better at it, or?
Well, all right, just as an example, where are we? We're in a public library. We've got shelves and shelves and shelves and shelves of books, right? Probably covered most of the things that you ever want to know, reasonably for our community. I point out to people, the universe is like a giant library, and all the knowledge and wisdom that has ever existed, will exist, and does exist is right there. And as you become more proficient with meditation, you get a library card to that library. You don't have to know, it's like, you don't have to know everything that's in the library, you just have to know where to find the card index to find what you're looking for. Same thing. Basically, when you boil down to it, it's like when I do legal papers for pro se litigation, or I'm writing a legal paper for one reason or another. I start off with the first sentence. I'm conscious of the first sentence that I write. After that, I tune into whatever I need to tune into and draw the legal terminologies and all of that, and sit down and just start writing it out. And then when I get finished, it's like I come back, I don't correct it, I leave it just like it is. And it's always the way it's supposed to be. So once you get that library card into the universe, you don't have to know everything. You just have to be able to find the card file. And all the knowledge, you can literally download that knowledge to you and use it. And then when you get finished, it's like a book, you close the book and you put it back on the shelf. So it'll be there the next time. Because you can't know everything about everything all the time. You just have to know where to find it. Okay? Okay. And like I say, if you have questions, please feel free to ask until you get enough, you have the answer you're satisfied with. Because I'm not doing you any good if I'm not helping you. Okay? So moving on, we find that meditation opens up the channel through which infinite wisdom is available to the individual. All individuals possess sufficient wisdom and knowledge to direct them on their pathway to lead them to success and accomplishment of their purpose in this particular state of their existence. But in the average individual, the avenue through which the insight may pass into the conscious mind is almost, if not entirely, closed. Meditation dynamites the dam and lets the crystal waters of intuition through. That's why people who are very, who are extremely orthodox in their religious practices and whatnot, probably won't have much success, because they're captured by their orthodoxy, which does not make an allowance for things like meditation and whatnot, because if it's not written in whatever text or whatever, it's just not valid. And so the enculturation in orthodoxy can sometimes limit what a person is capable of doing, until such time as they're willing to break from that orthodoxy and accept that, there's got to be more than what they say here. There has to be. And then you start learning. And at that point, it's when you come to the realization that when you start that initial step into finding out what more exists, that more has already found you and gave you the desire to find it. Well, yeah, and that's what I've always told students. When you first, the instant that you start seeking that creative self, the moment that inspiration hits you to find that, it's already found you. It sent you a wake-up call, and it's up to you to start the path of discovery, because that's the ultimate goal. That's what it wants. So if the question of how can I find God? Well, if you're asking the question, it's already found you. You just have to become aware of it. Okay, continuing on, it is sometimes thought that meditation is only useful in the development of character along the lines of ethical and religious thought. It is very effective for this purpose, but it can also be applied in the most practical way to every problem of life. If you want material success in your business affairs, daily spend time in meditation. Do not try to do all the work with your conscious mind, but give your higher intelligence a chance to help work out your problems. Many people are constantly rushing about trying to put through one plan or another, following so-called efficiency methods. Sometimes they succeed and sometimes they fail. It is all right to work for what you desire, but do not neglect to contact the source of all wisdom and make the connection which will illuminate the whole undertaking. In a city with electric power plants, we would think people foolish if they did not have the proper wiring installed and enjoy the flood of light, which was their privilege. Do you feel that your work lies along the lines of one of the fine arts as music, painting, or sculpture? If so, do not depend entirely upon the education you may receive from books and school, or even from the finest teachers you can secure on the subject. Do all of these things, but in addition, seek wisdom in the quiet hour, communicate with all there is of art and beauty in the invisible world of thought. Carry your aspirations and dreams into the stillness where you are alone with your higher self. If you will do this every day, you will soon find that your understanding is deeper, your ideals will be more clearly outlined, and this inspiration will follow. And I have found that to be true. In practice, that is, I have found that is very true. But it takes effort. You have to work.
I think after you've done that for a while, let it come through when you're meditating.
Yeah.
When you are actually, like being in an office working with a problem, if you let your mind go there again, you don't have to call it meditating. It will come through to you anyway.
Yeah, well, meditation is, you can define meditation any way you want. It's not bound by philosophy, religious philosophy or anything. I mean, it's just there's a practical application in the computer world, just, not so different than in metaphysics. It's just another form of it. It's like, I knew programmers who could sit down and write a page of code error-free. I mean, that's just, they just sit down and just write it out and then punch it up, and there's no problems with it. Other people I've known, and I'm guilty of that, could sit down and write a page of programming, and it's 2 hours later, and I'm still trying to get through the first couple of phrases. But there are some people that, they just have that faculty for that. And of course, that gets you into logic, because that's what a computer is, it's logic. It's why the expression GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. When I found out that in computer programming, I had more garbage going in and coming out. So I was better in the technical aspects of it, of the operations, and not the programming aspects. Okay, moving on, we find that, are you an architect, engineer, or professional person? The same rule applies to every vocation. Supplement the knowledge you gain through the conscious mind with long periods of reflective and meditative thought, and you will be able to forge ahead in your particular calling with success. Meditation individualizes a person. It makes them different from the multitude. They stand out as a distinct, forceful character in contrast with the average person. It makes of them a master, a leader of individuals, a benefactor of the race. And with that, you develop a self-confidence that as you become more proficient, will exude from you, and people will sense your confidence, and they will be comfortable following you if you are a leader. In personal experience, I was probably one of the youngest staff sergeants at the time, and by the time I was 20, I was responsible for the lives of 12 other people. And I had people who left and came back a year or 2 years later and found out I was still in country and transferred to my section, because they had confidence in my ability to make good, sound judgments, and they knew I would never put them at risk without taking the risk first myself. So as you develop that confidence in yourself, people can sense that, and they will look to you for guidance, help, or whatever is required. And you will feel that yourself. You don't have to project it onto them. It just fills your energy field. People will feel comfortable being around you, that you're not BS, you know what you're talking about, and you know how to get things done. And that's part of being a good leader, whether it's in military, corporate, or whatever. Moving on, we find the great men and women of all the ages have followed the practice of meditation. The great masters of the East, the founders of the religions of the world, Buddha, Confucius, Zoroaster, Muhammad, Jesus, all spent time alone in contemplation of the mighty laws of life and being. The world's great philosophers, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, and many others, did not find the profound truths to which they gave utterance in books available in their day. By meditation, in the secret hour, they were able to transcend in thought the knowledge that was being taught at the time. The great scientists of the past and present did not come into possession of the mighty secrets of natural law through the study of books. Books could only furnish them with information up to a certain point. Then, through long periods of silent thought alone, they discovered higher truths than were known previous to their time. It's like who was it, Isaac Newton and gravity? When the apple hit him on the head, that must be gravity at work. The education and training received from average educational institutions tends to standardize individuals. Metaphysics does not. Every individual is allowed to, is encouraged to grow the path that they're on. Because it's not always, what's good for one is not always the same for everybody else. So that's why we're all individuals, but we're of a collective mind, but we're each on our own paths too. And the problem with esoterics, when I was teaching esoterics, everybody was compelled to a single line of thought and reason and practice. And out of 30 people, maybe 1 or 2 were actually doing anything of worth, actually accomplishing anything, because they fit the mold, whereas the others were trying to fit into the mold. And that does not enhance their ability to learn, because they're forcing themselves to do something that is not in their nature to do. So that's why, we're all following the same text, but we're all individuals, and we all will evolve from the work that we're doing now, according to our own paths. The education and training received from average educational institutions tends to standardize individuals. Certain facts are present, certain known laws taught, and if the pupil is reasonably bright and industrious, he will master the subject matter and be able to make a passing grade. His graduation from an institution of learning indicates that they have a fair knowledge of what that particular school teaches. This can only be done through the practice of meditation. Everyone has creative power, but they must be able to contact it before it will do them any good. Many students in theological seminaries complete their training for the ministry without learning the truth involved in meditation. Their failure to understand the value of this practice accounts for the mediocre work of many young men with promise who enter this profession. In their education, great stress is laid upon their intellectual powers, which are highly developed through the study of books on logic, the practice in debate, outlines, and commentaries. They are taught the art of arranging a sermon or a lecture. They can take a subject of text, break it up into a logical outline, gather facts, data, and illustrations on each separate part of their discourse, and create a pleasing, instructive piece of work. But if their training goes no further than this mental preparation, as the years go on, they find themselves becoming more and more dissatisfied with their efforts, realizing that they are failing to inspire their audience. This failure is because their own lips have not been touched with the fire of inspiration. The religious world's outstanding individuals have been individuals of reflection and meditation. No individual can give thoughts to the world unless they themselves is in possession of those thoughts, and the only way one can conceive great thoughts is to connect themselves with the source of all thought through quiet, reflective thinking. In one of the country's largest universities, the public speaking teacher spoke to a class about securing material for their speeches. He suggested they consult the literary digest, outlining their talks from the data found there. Inasmuch as the class was composed entirely of mature men and women, such a suggestion coming from an educator of note was most astounding. He evidently had no confidence in the ability of his pupils to use their conscious minds in thinking through the subject and forming their own conclusions, nor did he seem to understand the vast resources of knowledge lying just beyond the realm of the conscious mind, which may be contacted at will by those who are willing to pay the price in time and effort. That's what I was saying. The universe is a vast library, and through meditation you don't learn everything, but you know where the card index is, and once you find the card index, you can find all the knowledge you need. It's just like going out there in the library, man. You're looking for something, you go to the card index, and you find what you're looking for, and it'll tell you right where to go. Then when you're finished, you put it back on the shelf and go about your business. Because like I say, you can't know everything about everything all the time. You go crazy. And if they put it in paperwork, you know, that's okay. Continuing on, in an Orthodox church, a young girl active in the work of a young people's society took great interest in the group Sunday evening service. She would study the subject for the meeting and get alone for a while in quiet thought. Consequently, when she was called upon to take part in the service, she usually had something good to give. No one had taught her the art of meditation. She seemed to come upon the practice by accident, but she found that it never failed her. Some of the other members complained of the poverty of material to draw from and asked her where she obtained her ideas. She explained to them that she just thought them out, and she was perfectly sincere in thinking that her knowledge came that way. It did in part, but through meditation she put herself in line to receive divine wisdom. That was the touch which made her work so unexplainable to her associates. As set forth in the foregoing, meditation is a source of knowledge and power, but it does more than that. It harmonizes an individual with themselves and gives them confidence. By frequent meditation with the divine within, one comes to realize the relative unimportance of the annoying and petty details of life, which may stand in the way of one's progress. By coming in contact with this higher power, one begins to understand, although it may be vague, that there is a great purpose behind everything, that they have a place to fill in the divine scheme. Little by little, they learn to discriminate between the important and the trivial, giving their attention and thought only to worthwhile matters. Meditation raises the rate of vibration. It may be said to raise the consciousness. One will gain a deeper understanding of any subject upon which they meditate in the quiet hour. Even though they may not be conscious of any new ideas at the moment, in the course of time, thoughts will come with reference to their problem from whence they don't know. Continued practice in meditation and reflective thinking spoils our taste for idle and wasteful thoughts. Meditation may be carried on at any time and anywhere when one is not occupied with some work or pastime to which they must give their attention. Commuting to and from work on a train or bus or in a carpool may often furnish an opportunity for meditation. When one becomes engrossed with a subject, they become unaware of what is going on about them. They will not consciously hear the noises of the city or be aware of the confusion of the congested traffic. Meditation places them in a world of their own for a time being, and being above the noise and din and confusion of the world about them, they draw from that unseen sphere strength, harmony, and power. In meditation, concentration reaches its highest point. Attention is all centered on one subject to the exclusion of everything else. In your practice work on this lesson, continue the statements of the last lesson. I am peaceful. I have the power to think. Then add the statement, I am in quiet meditation. Thus, these thoughts, I am peaceful, I have the power to think, I am in quiet meditation. Read the lesson over each day for 7 days, or as you can, and make the statements, try to realize their truth. I am peaceful, I have the power to think, I am in quiet meditation. And that ends that lesson. Did that make it, anybody have any questions over that?
So if you're sitting trying to meditate and...
No, we don't use the word try because,
Well, that's what I usually do.
well, you know, I point out to people, if you use the word try, if you're saying, I am going to try to do this, what you're effectively saying subconsciously is, I'm going to try to do this, but I'm willing to accept the probability that I may fail. You should never anticipate failure. It's like somebody said, you either do or don't do. You know, Star Wars.
Positive affirmations, like, right?
Yeah. It's like in, Luke was taught, you either do, don't do. No try. Because you should never be willing to accept the possibility of failure. I mean, you may come up a little short, but that's not failure. And that will improve. So we don't try anything. Now, back to your question, I'm sorry.
Remember what it was? I guess it wasn't important.
You were
Oh, no.
meditating.
But let me,
When you were trying, you just said trying to meditate.
okay. A lot of times for me, if I just sit quiet and I don't strain or quote, try to
Right.
do anything, things come into me and I hear things. So for me, my question is, that's my meditation.
Yeah, yes, that's fine. Because when you're entering into, when you're doing meditation and you're effectively endeavoring to turn off the outside world and receive communication from another source, separate from the physical world, whether it's divine source or whatever. But it's, you're endeavoring to receive that communication. So you turn off what's coming in and just leave yourself. It's like tuning a radio, you know, you're looking for that one station that's just not local, and you know it's there. And so in meditation, you're turning that dial, looking for that station.
Well, that's a good question that I have, because maybe Pam, I'm not hearing what you're saying, or maybe I am, but you're saying you hear. It's more auditory for you.
It is.
And that's something that I wish they kind of would included the lesson, because
Well, you know,
I think a lot of people, they're like, how do you